Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this ORCID Enabling Value webinar with The Lens. My name's Shiv Naidu. I'm an engagement manager at ORCID, and I'll be your facilitator today. Thank you for joining us. The Enabling Value series at ORCID is focused on ORCID certified service provider systems and how the ORCID community can benefit from using such ORCID integrated systems to extend services to their researchers. Um, just a few housekeeping notifications before we get started. To enhance your experience today, you can enable closed captions from the button at the bottom of the screen. We'll use the dedicated Q&A channel, so please feel free to submit your questions throughout the presentation and at the end as well, when we'll have a dedicated time to actually answer questions. You can also check the resources tab at the bottom of the screen for handouts and things that our team post that you might find interesting. And finally, today's session will be recorded, and the recording and all of the supplementary materials will be shared with you by email after this session as well, if you've registered for the session. Before I introduce my co-hosts, I'll go ahead and provide a brief introduction to the ORCID Certified Service Provider Program for those who are not familiar with it, and then we'll get started with the presentation from the folks from the Lens. So just bear with me while I share my screen. Apologies, let's get this into full screen mode. Great. So for those who may not be familiar with ORCID, or this might be your first ORCID webinar, ORCID is a community-driven enterprise. We're a non-profit global membership organization, open to participation by all and for all. The registry has been going for just over 14 years now, and we are sustained by fees from our member organization community. We're guided by our values and founding principles, which you can find linked there and on the ORCID website. And the ORCID board are elected by the ORCID members and from the ORCID members to actually guide us and ensure that we are fulfilling our mission. We provide three key infrastructure services. There's the ORCID ID and the ORCID records. These are completely free services to researchers. So the ORCID identifier is a 16-string digit number with the ORCID URL in front of it. And researchers can use this wherever and whenever they need to be uniquely identified and to disambiguate themselves from researchers with similar names. Accompanying that is the ORCID record, which you can think of as a digital CV or digital profile, which allows the researcher to catalog all of their research activities, their research outputs, their organizational affiliations, anything related to their day-to-day activities in the research ecosystem. And the third most important service is the ORCID APIs. These are application programming interfaces which allow different systems to speak to and interact with the ORCID registry and exchange data back and forth, which is very powerful because it allows the researcher to keep their record up to date with minimum effort on their part, allowing them to actually transfer data back and forth between different systems that they might use on a daily basis, and also saving them time and effort and reducing the chance of human error when inputting data into these systems. ORCID has been adopted globally. We're pretty well established in the global research ecosystem. We have over 11 million yearly active researchers. So those are researchers who've interacted with or used their ORCID profile in the last 12 months, or actually delegated a trusted member organization to update their profile on their behalf. Users all across the world. We have member organizations in over 67 countries as well. 28 national consortia serving universities and nonprofits, and 2 regional consortia. And across those, they cover around almost 1,500 members who together have integrated close to 7,400 different systems with the ORCID registry. Again, saving researchers time and effort and actually making their lives easier. You can think of the ORCID registry as a hub of research-related data. And again, we put the researcher at the center of everything we do. The researcher has full control over their data and ownership of their data. But the actual APIs allow those different systems that they might interact with to transfer data back and forth with their ORCID record. Again, saving them time and effort, and also helping that data to flow more easily so it's not siloed in different systems. So the ORCID Certified Service Provider Program is a free voluntary initiative offered by ORCID. It allows vendors and service providers who've built an ORCID integration to actually certify it with ORCID to demonstrate to the ORCID member community that they're following best practices as defined by ORCID and also by the member community. It's an assurance to the community and to researchers that wherever they see this ORCID certified logo, this is a system that's following best practices and offering ORCID functionality that they are familiar with and that meets their needs and requirements, basically. So we review these systems on an annual basis and certify them based on the different workflows we've defined for these types of systems. And the main benefit is really ensuring faster and more reliable integration for ORCID member organizations. If I go on to the next slide, we have the 5 different workflows that we've defined here in terms of different types of research systems that might integrate with the ORCID registry. The Lens, who are our guests today, fall in the Discovery Systems workflow, which was the most recently defined of these workflows. It is slightly different from the others in that the others allow member organizations to use their own member API credentials to actually add data to ORCID records, whereas Discovery Systems use the vendor-owned credentials to actually help researchers facilitate discovery of data related to their activities and add those to their record using the vendor's credentials. But the main benefits to the member organizations and to the vendors are listed on the right there in those boxes. And again, it is around consistency of user experience and actually offering faster and easier ways for organizations and researchers to add validated data to their ORCID records. And with that, I will end my presentation and pass over to Aaron and Mark to introduce themselves and present about the Lens. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Shiv, for that overview. The Lens is proud to be a certified service provider for ORCID, and I'd like to thank the whole ORCID team for making today's event possible, and also thank all of you for attending today. What Aaron and I would like to do is briefly introduce the Lens and then go into some detail about Lens Profiles, which is the tool that links into the ORCID system. Again, my name is Mark Garlinghouse. I'm the Director of Business Development for the Lens. We are a social enterprise. We're a project of the social enterprise Cambia, based in Australia. We've been operational since about 2001, first as the patent lens, and we transitioned to just the lens when we added scholarly literature to our data corpus and linked the papers to the patents in order for people to be able to easily track citations from patents. Cambia is a organization that was founded with the mission of solving the problem of problem solving. The Lens is more focused on providing open access to knowledge in order to accelerate innovation. Foundational to what the organization believes is that humanity faces too many problems to exclude people from being part of the problem solving and innovation process. What I'll run through quickly is a little bit more about the data sets that we cover. As Shiv mentioned, all of these slides will be made available and you'll be able to review them in more detail. So we have 3 data sets: scholarly literature, patents, and biological sequences. The scholarly data composes a data set today that's over 300 million records. About 50% of those are from peer-reviewed journals. We also have coverage from books, conference proceedings, and other sources. We ingest those records from Crossref, PubMed, OpenAlex and the legacy Microsoft academic data set in order to provide as complete a metadata record about each of the records that we cover. The patent information is ingested from a number of different sources. We have a data set of over 168 million records today that represent 106 jurisdictions. We have full text patents from 3 jurisdictions, USPTO, EPO, and WIPO's PCTs. The biological sequences are extracted from a million or just over a million patents today, and they help us to create a data set of over 500 million sequences that are searchable using a BLAST search engine. Uniquely, we create a knowledge graph that links the scholarly works to the patents through the patent citations in order for users to easily see how their research output has influenced the patent literature. That can be done at an individual level, the level of the researcher, and it can also be done in aggregate at a university level or even a country level, for example. The Lens is very proud to be a partner to ORCID. It's extremely important to us that ORCID is the primary and leading author identifier system. Importantly, what the Lens has in Lens profiles is not another author identifier system. It is simply a system that makes it easy for researchers to add the metadata from patents or scholarly works to their ORCID record. We started our partnership in 2016. We have some information about the origins of that partnership, and it is an honor today to be a certified ORCID service provider. We will jump into more details about how this system works through Lens profiles. But before I hand over to my colleague, Aaron, I just want to call your attention to some more information that will be in the slides that you have the opportunity to get. There's more detail about the Lens, as well as links to some user-created content that's available through our support page, excuse me, and 2 links to our founder and current CEO, Dr. Richard Jefferson, speaking about the origin of the idea of the Lens that led him to create this platform and continue to develop it, as well as more information about the importance of the patent corpus as a knowledge resource. So I will stop here and pass over to Aaron.
Thanks for that, Mark. And good morning, or afternoon, or evening, everyone, depending where you're joining. So I'm going to quickly run through a couple of these slides. There's a few more slides on the slide deck. I should introduce myself. I'm the Director of Product at the Lens. There's a few more slides on the slide deck that, as Mark mentioned, we'll be providing after the webinar. But I just wanted to run through basically the information flow, because as Mark mentioned, we're leveraging the ORCID identifier as the unique linking identifier and using that to create what we're calling Lens profiles. So just so you understand the information flow behind the profiles, there are a number of data sources that include ORCID identifiers. ORCID is probably the main one. And we get bulk data from ORCID and integrate that with our other data sources every data update. So that happens every 2 weeks for the scholarly works. And what we do is we match up the data from ORCID with our scholarly works in the Lens, match up on the author, and add the ORCID identifier if we don't have it. Our existing data sources, many of them do have ORCID identifiers, but we supplement with ORCID. So that gets indexed and is used to serve our Lens profiles. So we're providing the scholarly works and the patents for each author and inventor based on their ORCID identifier. The information flow is not just one way, because users can add works or patents to their ORCID records in between updates. And so what we do is we fetch any new works or from the ORCID record via the APIs that Shiv mentioned in real time when a profile is loaded. And we also display those, we match them to a scholarly work in the Lens, and we display them on the Lens profile if we have them. the two-way sync here is if a user claims their profile in the lens by linking their ORCID record, they can then use it to update their ORCID record and sync any works that they haven't got their ORCID identifier associated with in the lens, as well as their patents, up to their ORCID record. So that's why we have that two-way sync there. We also pull the career information from the ORCID record and display that on the profiles. That's a one-way information flow, but we hope to make that a sync in future. So that's just a bit of an overview of the information flow. So what I want to do is show some live examples of profiles. And then I'm going to show where we can find them on the Lens platform and how you can use them. So let me share my screen again. Okay, so I've loaded up a few profiles, lens profiles for existing users, a few profiles that looked interesting and were complete. So I'll just go over the basic components of a lens profile. So this is a profile for Gil Travish. We've got the profile banner at the top there. You can see Gil's added a profile image for him and given himself his profile display name. We can see this profile, he's linked his ORCID identifier with his lens account. So he's claimed his profile. We've got the ORCID identifier there. On the right, we've got a link to the ORCID record, a link to the impact story record. You can also follow authors and you can share profiles. Back on the left, we've got some summary stats for the author or inventor's scholarly works and patents. So Gil's got 214 scholarly works in the lens with an open access ratio of 28%, a collaborative ratio of 58%, a H index of 23, and we do have some information about that available there. He's got 2,900 scholarly citations and 45 patent citations. He's also got 211 scholarly works. So on the right, you see a time series and the number of citations that we show for authors and inventors. So he's got 211 patents. These are coming from 22 simple patent families, and they've been cited 281 times by other patents, and they have 71 non-patent literature citations. So just some summary stats for the author or inventor. We also provide their most frequent classification codes in the case of patents. So we can have a look at those and see which technology sectors that this inventor is most filing their patents in. If we look at the scholarly works, we can see the top fields of study. So physics, optics, lasers, beam structures, electrons. So it gives you a bit of an idea of what research area the author or inventor is in. On the right here, we have career information, and we're pulling this directly from the ORCID record. So we can see their employment record here. So Gil is currently the CEO and founder of Vibo Health. He was formerly co-founder of Adaptix and previously a researcher at UCLA. If the user has entered their education into their ORCID record, that will be displayed here as well. So he did his PhD at UCLA, for example. Any co-authors on the author's papers that also have an ORCID will be shown here. So we can see the most common co-authors with an ORCID identifier for Gil's works. Any mentions in impact story of the author and their works, such as Wikipedia articles, blog posts, etc. Those will get listed here. Any name aliases or name variants that the author has added for their onto their ORCID record will be listed there, as will their funding. So any research grants that either they or a funder has added to the ORCID record will be shown here, and any external links that they have will be shown there. Below that, we've got the personal bio, again being pulled from the ORCID record, and then we have the list of scholarly works and patents. So on the profile, we show the first 20 scholarly works and patents, but obviously this author has a lot more. So you can actually view these in another search so that you can use the filter functionality or search within this to identify. For example, we could look at Gil's scholarly works that he did while he was at UCLA. So I can filter the works to those. 104. You can also search within this. So if I wanted to find anything he was doing on harmonic waves, I can search within. You can also do the same thing for the patents. So I'll just quickly show that. So we've got this first 20 patents here, but I can open those in a new patent search on the lens. And again, we can use the filter functionality or search within this. So I can see, for example, the patents that Gil filed when he was at Adaptix, just by applying that filter. So that is the basic structure and outline of the lens profiles. I'll show a few more examples next, just so you can get a feel for the different types of profiles that we have and different types of users. So this is a lens profile for Francois Dignat-George. She's a deputy director at Aix-Marseille, and she has 456 scholarly works and a total of 28,000 scholarly citations. So highly cited researcher. She also has 64 patents. And you can look at her education, did a PhD at Aix-Marseille, co-authors in the lens, mentions, some research funding, and external links. Another example, we have a professor from Morgan State University. So Kevin Cornegay has 172 scholarly works, 16 patents. And we can also see there's a tab for collections on his profile. So if you create any collections in the lens, on your lens account, and make them public, they will be listed on your profile as well. And we'll be adding other features, other work area items as well in future. Another example, so this is an associate professor at the Washington University. And I believe Matthew Liu has a co-author who has also claimed their lens profile and uploaded their profile image. Another professor at a Munich University, Uwe Berghoff. So Uwe has 182 scholarly works, 19 patents. You can see he's already also created a collection for his patents, a public collection. Another example, another professor from Milano Politecnico, Giuseppe Quaranta. He also has a collection, public collection. And just a few other examples. So this is a AI engineer at Microsoft, and he's got 73 patents and 26 scholarly works. An inventor who has only got patents, so only claimed their patents, so there are 35 patents, and she's a researcher from General Motors. You see a lot of car-related patents there. And last but not least, our CEO and founder, Richard Jefferson, who is a highly cited molecular biologist. So he's got 55 scholarly works and 18,000 scholarly citations. He's also got 74 patents with over 1,000 patent citations. And he's got a few collections in the lens as well. So that's a bit of an overview and example of the sorts of lens profiles that we've got, or the sorts of users that have lens profiles. So now I'm going to show you where we can find these in the lens and then how you can use them. So I'm going to go back to the home page. The first place to search for a profile, if you know the author or inventor that you want to look for, or you have the ORCID ID, is this profiles tab. So I can search for Richard, for example. And this is pulling from searching the ORCID API for anyone with an ORCID identifier and a similar name. We can see his profile there. If the profile that you're looking for isn't returned, it may be that they have no works associated, so you can unselect that and you'll get a few more results, but they won't have any works to show on their profile. So that's the easiest way to find a profile or find someone with a profile. There's also a number of ways to access profiles from within a search. So I'm just going to run a scholarly work search for artificial intelligence. Okay, So starting with the filters, we've got a number of different what we call flag filters, and one has an ORCID identifier. So you can limit your results, your search results, to any scholarly work that has at least one or more authors with an ORCID identifier. And we see for this search for artificial intelligence, nearly half of the scholarly works have an ORCID identifier, or at least one author with an ORCID identifier. So we can narrow down our results to that, so we can find some authors with an ORCID identifier. While I'm in the filters, we also have an author filter that allows you to display the ORCID identifiers for these authors. So any authors with an ORCID identifier will get shown then in the in the filters here, and you can see their ORCID identifier as well. On the right-hand side here, you'll see we've got a what we call a quick analysis or a preview analysis sidebar. And one of the charts we show is prominent author profiles. So based on your search, these will be the top authors based on the number of their scholarly works that have their ORCID identifier associated with them in your current search results. So we can see here these are the top authors based on our current search that have an ORCID identifier associated. And you can just click on these and go straight to their profile. We also list the profiles and the ORCID identifiers on the works themselves for the authors, obviously. So this example here, you can see both these authors have their ORCID identifier associated with their ORCID record. And we can view their profile from here. So this one is an example of an unlinked profile. So we see this author has 14 scholarly works, and we can see they haven't created an account in the lens and linked their ORCID identifier. So if you do have an ORCID ID and you can find your lens profile, you can actually shortcut all that and link your ORCID straight here if you've already got your account. Even if you don't have a lens account, that will step you through the process of creating one. You can also search for an author and their ORCID identifier to find all of their works straight from this author modal. So I can run this search for this author, and that'll effectively apply a filter, and we can see there are the 14 works. If you are looking for scholarly works for multiple authors, you can create a query, a structured query. So if you've got a list of ORCID identifiers, for example, you can create a structured query to search for those. So I'm going to create a query on the author ORCID field. And if I go and grab an example, one of the ones we looked at, I can add Gill's ORCID identifier and search for that. I need to remove this filter. Okay, so there's his list of scholarly works. And to this, we can add, if you've got a list of ORCID identifiers for your authors or researchers at a department or a faculty, we can create a query with all of them. So I'm just going to grab another ORCID identifier and add that to our query using the OR predicate. So now we're looking at the scholarly works from those two authors combined. So, you can create a query like that. And there's the two lens profiles and the prominent authors profile chart. Okay. So next I'm going to log in and show you how to use your lens profile. So the easiest way, if you haven't yet created a lens account, but you do have an ORCID record, the easy way to create an account is to use your ORCID record to log in, or your ORCID account. So this will step you through the ORCID OAuth process. If you do have a lens account, this is the same as logging in. If you don't have a lens account yet, it will step you through the registration process in that modal. So I've already created my ORCID and linked it. So I'm now logged in. I'm going to go to my account settings. And from here is where you can link your ORCID record. So you can see we've got link services here, information on linking accounts and lens profiles and all of those support posts are available in our support site there. So lots of additional information on how to do this. Basically, if you link your ORCID record here for the first time, or if you relink it, it just steps you through that OAuth process again. Take you to ORCID and authorize it. We also have some profile settings here for your lens profile. So you can edit and choose your display name for the profile. You can also create a custom URL for your lens profile that you can use to share, a bit more meaningful than a random number. And you can add your profile image here. So you can either upload an image or select from your media library on your lens account. So those are the profile settings. Let's have a look at the profile itself now. So this is my lens profile. It's a little bit different when you're logged in and you're looking at your own profile. So you can access it from the menu at the top here. You can also access your profile from your work area sidebar there. But you can see it's I've linked my ORCID, I added a profile image. I'm following myself. I've got 22 scholarly works, and most of these are in fishery science in my previous career. Now, there's a couple of ways to use your lens profile. So we have some additional options here in the toolbar above the scholarly works list that you can see when you're logged in and looking at your own profile. And this one, find more of my works, is probably the main one you'll use to basically what we call bulk claim wizard, claim all of your scholarly works or patents in effectively 1 or 2 steps, maybe 3. So it takes you through the process of searching for your name, searching for your name variants. So you might have, a few different name variants in the lens that your author has been recorded against, authorship. And that will then look for any scholarly works that you have not yet claimed and display them here. So I unclaimed this one just before the demo so I could show the process. So this one is one of mine. I can say, yep, checked it. I've reviewed it. I'm aware that it will sync it to my ORCID record, and I can record my authorship. So that will then add it to your lens profile and sync it to your ORCID record. So this is the work here, and I'll just show you on the actual work itself. You can see I've now claimed this, and it's got my little profile avatar next to that. I can remove the claim from here, and you can see it's got my link profile there as well. You can do the same for patents. So if you're an inventor and you want to bulk claim all of your patents and sync them to your ORCID record as well, you can use the bulk claim from your patents tab. I don't have any patents, but somebody with a very similar name to me does, which is quite convenient for demoing. So if these were mine, I could go through, check them off, say, yep, this is my set of patents, and confirmed I've reviewed them and synced them to my ORCID. So I'm going to do this and show them on my ORCID record and then remove them later. So now that I've claimed those 4 patents, they should show on my profile. So there's the 4 patents I've claimed. I'll show those on the ORCID record. So you can get to your ORCID record. Zoom down, I've now got 26, and some of those are patents that I've just added. While I'm here, I will show the view your ORCID record. So when you're in your edit mode for your ORCID record, if you want to add works using our search and link wizard. So this is where you can come if you haven't got a lens account and you want to quickly link your account and claim all your works. This will do it for you. Basically, it'll step you through the process, take you through the OAuth, set up the account, and then it will also step you through that bulk claim that I just ran through and the profile alert, setting up profile alerts. So effectively get you to claim all your works and set up an alert all in sort of one process. So this would be the most, this would be the recommended way to use your lens profile if you've already got an ORCID record, I would say. Let me have a look at these in our work area. So you can see we've got, actually, let me set up profile alerts first. Okay, so this other option here for setting up profile alerts, this allows you to basically create alerts that will send you an email notification whenever there are new works that are added to the lens that are yours or match one of your author names. So this modal steps us through the process of setting these up. So I can add my middle name to this, and you can see it's setting up automatically setting up a whole bunch of different name variants just based on the names that I've entered. So if those are used by you, you can create the alert for both patents and scholarly works, and we will be able to see those in our work area. Okay, so now I have profile alerts enabled, and we can see those in the Save Queries section of our work area. So I'll go over to there. There's our profile alerts. So one for scholarly works, one for patents. And we can see I've got notifications enabled, and email alerts enabled. So if I ever publish anything in future and I get a notification, I will get an email and I will get a notification in my notification area, in my work area. I will also show the claimed works. So any works or patents that you've claimed will be shown here in your work area. So we can see here's the 4 patents I just claimed. So you can come in here to manage them, you can resync them, or you can remove your claim from here. So I'll do that now. And those patents should no longer be on my profile. You can see I've also got collections, a whole bunch of public collections, and I don't have any public reports yet. But these are the sort of things, if you're wanting to showcase, either your work or a collection of, research that you're working on, you can do that on your lens profiles. Okay, that was everything I wanted to run through. Shall we stop there and take questions?
Aaron, we have a couple of good questions in the Q&A. The first is it necessary to open a new lens profile, or is it okay to log in through the ORCID ID?
It's log in through the ORCID ID. So you can create a new lens account. If you've created a new lens account without signing in through ORCID, you can go to your work area to link your ORCID record. So from your, my account. From here, you can use the link services to link your ORCID record. But the recommended way would be to sign in with your ORCID record initially, and that will step you through the account creation process.
Terrific. The second question is, I'm curious about the prominent link to impact story, as my impression is the service is no longer maintained.
That's correct, and we are looking to replace that at some point soon, yeah.
And the third is my academic persuade them to do one more.
Can you repeat that, Mark? You froze for a sec.
Yeah, my academics already moan that they have too many profiles to maintain and set up. How can I persuade them to do one more?
Right, yeah. So signing in with your ORCID, if you go, I'd use this search and link wizard ideally. So if your academics already have ORCID records or ORCID identifiers, effectively, they're not creating another account credentials. They can just sign and create an account using the search and link wizard, or sign in via their ORCID, so they don't have to maintain another account.
Yeah. I'll just emphasize there that from our perspective, they're not setting up a new account. What they're doing is helping to augment the data that they have on their ORCID record. So everything we're doing from Lens Profile's perspective is to enhance ORCID as the system of record for author identifiers. That covers the one more question, excuse me. How journals will be benefited by the Lens platform. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the scholarly works and some services we provide to journal titles.
So we have quite a few publishers using the Lens, and they have a number of different use cases. One is sort of showcasing their citations. So have a look at let's go look at a publisher. Let's choose Sage, pick one of their journals, Journal of Education. So a lot of them are looking using Lens for these sort of metrics and stats. So you can see your total citations for a journal. This one hasn't got a lot of citing patterns. Let's choose one that does. Citing medicine. So this one's got a handful of citing patterns. One of the common use cases is for publishers to showcase the impact of their scholarly, output. And one of the useful ways of doing that is to show the citing patterns. So we've got what we call this Explore Citations tab here. This allows you to do effectively a citation join, and I can go and see the patterns that now cite that journal that we were just looking at. And you can do that on individual scholarly article basis or at a journal level. You can do it at a publisher level as well.
Yeah, that's a common use case that we see from publishers and individual journal editors. That gets to the end of the questions that were posted on Q&A. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Thanks, Aaron and Mark. We also had some pre-submitted questions that registrants actually included in their registration when registering for the webinar. So we have about 6 or 7 that I could go through as well while people think of questions online. So first question, Aaron and Mark, for university administrators, how can we leverage the Lens API alongside the ORCID API to automate bibliography updates for our entire faculty? Is that possible?
Yeah, so when I was doing the demo, I showed the query that you can create using multiple ORCID identifiers. So if you've got a set of ORCID identifiers for your faculty members, you can put a query together, and you can do this via the API or the user interface, that basically searches for all your faculty members, papers for all your faculty members based on their ORCID identifier or all their names. And you can automate that to pull their new works, every couple of weeks if you want. So the APIs provide both request and response fields for the ORCID. So you can search for the ORCID identifiers for both authors and inventors. And the ORCID identifiers are included in the response, along with any other identifiers that we have in the metadata. So, as well as the abstracts and all the bibliometric metadata, which you can use to keep a institutional repository or website updated, with all their research and patents.
Great, thanks. Good to know. Another question. What safeguards or human-in-the-loop checks are in place to prevent metadata errors or duplicate records from propagating across the systems during the sync? And I can speak a little bit from the ORCID side as well.
So from our side, obviously there's no manual entry. You're just syncing up the metadata that we have for your work. We've set up automatic syncs. So whenever metadata is updated for your scholarly works in the Lens, we sync that up to the ORCID record as well. We also have a dispute button. So if you find a record that has been claimed incorrectly, you can dispute that claim. That's pretty much it. I'll hand over to you, Shiv, from the ORCID perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, from the ORCID perspective, ORCID was created from the start to be able to handle duplicate items in the records. We don't differentiate between those. So if there are multiple sources coming in from different systems that the researchers link to their ORCID record, we can handle those duplicate items in the actual ORCID record. If they have a common identifier like a DOI or an ISBN, for example, we will automatically stack those. Again, we fall back on the fact that the record holder has full control and ownership of the data in their record. So they can choose which version of records for each item they want to display, whether it's the item that's added to their record by Crossref or by the publisher directly or by the lens. They can also choose the visibility settings for every item on their record. So again, they can choose which items to show on their record or remove from their record if they wanted to delete completely. Like the lens, we also have a robust dispute procedure as well. So if there are any items or any records that anyone in the community, whether it's another researcher or a member organization, feels may be suspect or may need some additional scrutiny around, anyone can raise a dispute with the ORCID support team, and we will do further investigation and lock that record or lock that item if necessary until the record holder has actually demonstrated ownership of that item that they've claimed. Okay, thank you. Another question here, which you might have covered, Aaron, apologies. Once a profile is linked, how often does the lens check for new works, and does the researcher receive a notification before their ORCID record is updated?
Yeah, so that the profile alerts setting up that I've stepped through at the end there, that sets up the alerts for you so that whenever there are new works added to the lens, you'll get an email. The update cycle for the Scholarly works is every 2 weeks, and for patents is every week. So you may not see it in there. It's got to come into our data sources first and then be indexed before you get the notification. But as soon as we have it and it matches your profile alert, you'll get an email.
Great, thanks, Aaron. The lens tracks patents from over 100 jurisdictions. Are there any limitations on which type of patent data, such as granted versus applications, can be exported to ORCID?
No limitation, as long as they're in the lens, obviously, and have your inventor name associated.
Great. Another question here on the library side. What are the best strategies for a library or research office to promote the lens and ORCID workflow to faculty who are suffering from profile fatigue? So sort of related to the question that was submitted during the session as well.
Yeah, so I guess a similar answer. So if your faculty already have an ORCID record, the best thing to promote would be to basically link their ORCID with Lens and use it to update their ORCID record. So, I think there was an example where you mentioned Crossref and DataCite and other publishers provide ORCID services as well. So they're committing records to ORCID, but they may not have all of your scholarly works in one place. They might all be published in DataCite or have a Crossref DOI, etc. So the Lens provides a bit more comprehensive place to go and find all the works. That bulk claim process allows you to claim, a lot of works quickly to save yourself some time. And then they're then in ORCID and available for all these other systems to be used. So your library can then get that information via ORCID and use it to update their institutional repository. Funders will pull that information for assessing research funding grants, etc.
Thanks, Aaron. And do you have sort of a toolkit or promotional materials that the librarians can use to engage with faculty and researchers?
Not a toolkit as such, but obviously our support sites and support documentation. There are examples of what do you call them, libguides that other universities have done that could be reused. So we got a few of those linked on our support site as well.
Great, good to know. Thanks. And similarly, on the ORCID side, we have a wealth of resources that our comms team have put together. I'm sure Kimberly on our call today will be able to provide the link as well to our sort of faculty engagement resources that librarians can make use of as well to promote ORCID as well.
There was one more
Yes,
question in the Q&A.
Yes. I see. Where does the funding data come from? How comprehensive is it?
So that the funding data we show for individuals on their lens profiles pulled directly from the the ORCID record. Where that information is coming from, I think there's multiple sources. I think you can either enter it manually yourself, or some funders are contributing funding records now to ORCID themselves, I believe, Shiv. So there's a few different sources. I wouldn't call it comprehensive yet, but that's where it's coming from, I think. Are there any other sources from ORCID's perspective for that funding data?
Yeah, we have a number of funders who write directly to ORCID Records as well. We're continuing to engage with funders as well in that space, such as Wellcome Trust and others, to actually help them to integrate their systems. They're a little bit behind the publishers and the universities, having used different systems and older systems that are a little bit more limited, but a lot of them are now starting to integrate their platforms with ORCID and actually write those funding awards to the ORCID records of applicants and successful applicants. And I see Mark has put a link there to the support site in the chat as well for the lens. Thanks, Mark. Another question for those brand new to ORCID and the lens, what is the single most important benefit of connecting a lens profile right away versus waiting until later in their career? That's an interesting one.
If it's a research career, I guess ensuring you've got your ORCID identifier early will make sure that your work is accurately represented across a whole bunch of different systems. So not just the lens. Wherever there are ORCID identifiers used, it'll ensure that your work, your output is accurately represented. Any other benefits you can think of, Mark, to add to that?
Well, the way that the question was framed was, what are the benefits to do it early in the career? And I think what you said nailed it. In my experience working with users around the world, waiting just means that you have a bigger backlog to fill. So getting your ORCID ID early, making sure that you're completing or tracking your entire career output is really the benefit of the whole system.
But if you are late career and you do have a lot of output, the bulk claim does make it a little bit quicker.
Yeah,
absolutely. Great. And thank you, Aaron and Mark. That echoes the ORCID side of things as well. We encourage folks to create an ORCID once and reuse often. So again, the idea isn't that the researchers should be spending time and effort to populate their ORCID record. They should be creating it and then using it to log into systems or connecting it to systems such as the lens, and then delegating that permission to those systems to actually keep their record up to date. The earlier they use it in their career, the more they can start to accumulate data in their record, and it makes their lives easier, obviously. Early career researchers might have fewer publications and obviously may not have patents that they have registered. But once they start using the ORCID ID with publisher systems, for example, the publishers can also credit them for peer review activity, and that helps them to build up some trust markers in their profile and helps you accumulate trust in their ORCID record as well. And as time goes on, that record becomes more and more useful to them throughout their career and all of the different systems that they use with their ORCID record as well. Right. Just checking if there are any other questions we might have missed in the pre-submitted list. I think we've covered all of them to some degree. I think there were one or two that were sort of overlapping topics. So I think if nobody else has questions in the chat, we can close the webinar here. And thank you, Aaron and Mark, for your time today and for presenting the lens to the ORCID community. And thank you, everyone, for attending. And for those who are going to review the recording, we hope we find this insightful. You can find a number of the resources and support links and things in the follow-up email and in the resources tab in the webinar here. And we look forward to seeing you on another ORCID webinar soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Shiv. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Shiv. Thanks, ORCID.